Sorry guys, I just started recording. I'm on the exercise 617. Skip the first one. There's one whole person here. Way to go. Okay, it's a good thing one's here. I wouldn't do anything, huh? 3, 6, 5, 7, 55. In the machine has, okay, so that's the investment they have, and then that's the number of periods. We're doing exercise 617. Okay, anyway. No salvage value at the end of that time. If there was a salvage value, you'd have to take the present value of that too, right? Okay. The client is interested in earning 11% return. Interest rate's 11%. Okay. And you're agreeing to accept 25 rental payments at the end of each period. So what I want is ordinary or due. Which one?
Ordinary.
Ordinary. End of period. Ordinary annuity payment. And they'd like to know how much is the payment. Okay. All right, so all I'd do is I'd say, okay, I've got some sort of ordinary annuity payment when I take it times a factor, which is going to be what kind of a factor? Because I want to know what, I got present value. I want to know what payment would cover that present value, right? Present value now is 365. 755. So this is going to be a present value factor, right? If I'm calculating a future value, I use a future value factor. If I'm calculating a present value, I use a present value factor. That's simple. Okay? So present value.
So I kind of get a little confused sometimes on these on whether to use future or
Yeah. I think if you set it up the same way every time, the author always divides.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy, probably because I learned how to do it multiplying, I don't know, a million years ago. But if you set it the same way every time, you won't screw that up. No matter which way you do it. I'll just do it the same way. And then, so what I'm saying is the payment times the factor is a present value. So I need a present value factor. I'm calculating a present value in my little formula here. That's why one of the reasons I like to set it up that way.
Yeah.
Okay, if I had a future value over here, I'd need a future value factor. Okay? Interest rate, 11%. Number of periods, 25. You look up the factor, present value of an ordinary annuity. And by the way, what's this going to be? Is it going to be more or less than 25, this factor? I'm taking interest out as present value, less than 25. So that keeps you on the right table. If you grab the wrong table, you'll know. And of course, it's not going to be less than 1. That's the present value of a sum. And it's not going to be a small number. That'd be a future value of a sum. So it's going to be something less than 25. 11% is pretty high interest, and 25 years is a long time, right? So what's that factor?
8.42174.
It probably sounds right, huh? Because the interest would be $25 less $8.40. It's a lot of years, high interest rate. Okay, so all you do is you divide your 8.42174 into 365,755, and you'll get your payment.
That's 43,430.
And if you think about it, it's 43,430 times 25 payments, right? Always maintain contact with reality when you're doing annuities. How much is that? A lot of interest, huh? Yeah. And there ought to be 11%, 25 years. Yeah. Okay. So I bet we do.
That way you can even if you use the wrong one, you can kind of do that.
Yeah, if you got a ridiculous number. Yeah, if I like to take that 25 times it. Yeah. You don't have to.
Yeah, I do.
But I like to. I look at that and say, is that interest reasonable? And if it's a low interest rate, no. But for a high one like that, yeah, I think so. So let's make sure. I think we got that one done. What was 17?
Yeah, I had that answer down.
Oh, did you? Okay. It kind of drives me a little crazy. I really like this textbook. It's kind of the Bible, but it drives me crazy the way they show this. Look at that. Why would anybody do all that? Yeah. The time, a flow chart of the time. I guess if you're really lost, you could do that. Yeah, and then they show it as a division too. They show it more mathematically, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. Okay, what else you wanna look at?
Problem P6-6,
P6-6.
purchasing of this purchase.
Oh, this is a great one. Yeah, I wanted to do this one. This is that one with the vineyard. And I came up with one of these for an exam one time. I don't know if you guys will end up with this or not, but where I did this, but I put different interest rates for each of the different periods. Makes it even that much more fun. Because you could change interest rates, right? Based on what you think is going to happen, how risky the business is at different savings and stuff like that. That's always fun. So watch that. If you change, what happens to an annuity if you change the interest rate in the middle of it? It's no longer an annuity, right? Or maybe it's two annuities, one with the old interest rate and one with the new interest rate. You change interest rates, annuities are gone. If every year has a different interest rate, there are no annuities. If every year has a different cash flow, it's not an annuity. It's got to be the cash flow is the same and the interest rate stays the same for it to remain an annuity. Could for a retirement account, could you invest in the stock market thinking you're going to earn 8% more than inflation, which is what the stock market pretty much does, 7-8% more than inflation, 6-7% more than inflation, right? Could you invest in the stock market all the way through your working career, which is what I'm doing, and then when you retire, take it out and put it in lower risk investments? Sure. So then what would you have? Well, you might have an annuity going in or different lump sums at one interest rate growing, and then when you buy your retirement fund at the end, buy your annuity at the end, right? It'd be at a lower interest rate, maybe, to be more secure. Lots of people do that. So there's, so always watch the interest rate and the cash flows, right? Of course. So all you really need to know for any of these problems, present value, future value, you'll be solving for one of these, right? And you'll be given the other ones. Interest rate, number of periods, and you might have either an ordinary or a due annuity payment, right? That's everything there is for these calculations. It's everything there is in real life too, right? If the payments are different, guess what? You're in this world here, right? And if the interest rate changes, you're in this world here. The only time you can use an annuity is if it is one. Exactly the same payment every period, no period skips, and exactly the same interest rate every period. Discount rate. Okay? Nice thing is a lot of times we assume the same discount rate. Because what's your best guess of interest rates tomorrow? Guess what they are now? Are they going up or down? I don't know. What's really fun is with executive MBA students who say, oh, they're going up. No, they're going down. And I just laugh and I say, if you really know that, why are you sitting here? Go out and place your bets. Because you're going to win, right? Nobody knows. That's the whole game in investing. What's going to happen? Okay, so anyway, which one are we doing? 6-6. Problem 6-6. That's for the benefit of anybody who might be crazy enough to watch this. During the past year, Stacy McGill planted a new vineyard on 150 acres that she leases for $30,000 a year. What is that? The $30,000 a year.
That's ordinary annuity if she pays it.
Yeah, I don't know when she pays it at the beginning or end, but we know it's an annuity payment. Very good. We'll add ordinary or due to it, won't we? $30,000 and it's on an annual basis. Okay? All right. She asked you to assist in determining the value of her vineyard. The vineyard will bear no grapes for the first 5 years. Okay, years 1 through 5. Okay, and in the next 5, 6 through 10, they estimate the grapes can be sold for $60,000. So years 1 through 5 is going to be 0, and I guess that's an annuity, but that doesn't help me much, right? Because the value of that's 0 at any discount rate. The next 5 years, years 6 through 10, she's going to have $60,000 of revenue. This is $60,000 positive cash flow, right? Okay, that's revenue. This is rent, so that's out. You don't put brackets around it. Okay, average. That's their annuity payment. Okay, for the next 20 years, 11 to 30, she's going to have harvest will yield $110,000. that's cash in, right? You do cash in and out. But in the last 10 years of the vineyard's life, she estimates that revenues will decline to 80,000. So the last 10 is years 31 through 40. $80,000. What do those look like to you? Seeing as the amount stays the same.
They're all annuities.
They're all annuities, but they're separate annuities, right? Okay, I got 3 different annuities. All right, that's assuming the interest rate stays the same, discounted. During the first 5 years, the annual cost of pruning, fertilizing, and caring for the vineyard is estimated at $9,000. Oh, so we could put these together if you want, right? And get one cash flow, okay? Or you could treat them all separately. You could have, you could do as many calculations as you want and just add them together, or you can merge them. But it's the first 5 years. It's estimated at 9,000. So this is and 9,000 going out, right? Okay, and this is for other costs, production costs, okay? And, if we look further on there, it says assume all receipts and payments at the end of the year. So all of these are what kind of annuities? Yeah, these are ordinary annuities. This is an ordinary annuity. All of these are ordinary annuities, aren't they? And all of this is an ordinary annuity. Everything's ordinary, okay? So what I could do is I could take that 30,000 rent, it must be every year, and say, okay, there's the 30,000 rent here, and I can put it all together into one. I kind of like doing that personally. It's up to you how you do it. The rent's going to be constant across all of it, so then I won't have to calculate that one separately. Does that make sense? So this is negative 39 for the first 5 years. With me?
I get what you're saying. So
Yeah,
you
just put it all together. Yeah, and then I do total cash flow. And it's negative. But you can do them all separately if you want. You can group them any way you want. It'll give you the same answer. Okay, so 39,000. I just like fewer calculations. So total cash flow is a negative 39,000 there for 5 years, right? N is 5. Okay. Right, this is going to be N here, right? If you think about it, N is 5, N is 10, N is 20, N is 10, right? For each of those. Okay, so let's see. During years 6 through 40, so that's both of these, right? It's going to be 12. So this one's 12. And this one's 12 also. Happen to break the years nicely for us. Okay, that's the production in both cases. And then on the last one, it's all the way. So this one too, isn't it? They're all 12. Okay. Yeah. So either way you want to do this is fine. And then the rent is 30,000 the whole time, isn't it? Okay. Is that everything? Yeah, it's not bad. And they'd like to know what's the minimum price. We want to know the present value, don't we? Okay. What's the interest rate? Yeah, I need that too. So I've got all my number of periods here. I've got my cash flows over here I'm going to have. I've got my discount rate. I want to know the present value, right? So if I get the present value of each one of these cash flows and add them up, I should have it. Make sense? Okay, so what do I get for each one? This one would be 9 plus 30. This is 60 less 12 less 30. So 42 away from 60 is 18, is that right? Did I do that right? And then 110 less 42 is 68, is it? I just figured it was 50 more than the one before that. Is that right? And then 80 less 42 is 38. Okay. Those are annuity streams, right? So each one of these is a ordinary annuity payment. Be sure and keep track of the one that's negative as negative, right? Okay. So I'm going to pick up a factor for each one of these, which is going to be what? The number of years. So it's going to be an ordinary annuity factor to get back to the present value at time 0 for each one of them. Okay? So how much is that going to be? What are those factors going to be? Let's see. The first one is N equals, this is an ordinary present value of an ordinary annuity factor, right? First one is N equals 5. Interest rate equals 12%. Interest rate's always 12%. What's that factor?
3.60478.
Take 3.60478 times 39,000, and what do you get? Those dollars are pretty valuable because it's the first 5 years, right? I'm getting the present value of times 0 over here now. I should have written this smaller. It's okay.
So that is
140,586. Okay? Then the next one is going to be 5 more years, right? And it's also 12%. So guess what? It's the same factor. 3.60478.
for that, you would go to 10 years, you would do 10 minus 5, right, to get your factor?
Yeah, you could, or you could just use the 5 and then discount. It's a shortcut to use 10 less 5. If that makes sense to you, you're good. Take the factor for 10 years less the factor for 5 years, and you make one multiplication. Or you could multiply this out, but then it's a present value 5 years out. So this is a present value now, right? This is a present value at time 0. This is a present value 5 years out, and you just have to discount it for 5 years. Either way. Which one's easier? I don't know. If it makes sense to you intuitively to take one factor less the other one, and you've got the factor for the last 5 years, do it that way. That's fine. That makes sense? You want to do it that way? It only takes one multiplication then. Okay, either one is just fine. Do you see why it'd be fine either way? I can either figure out the present value at, I can figure out the present value 5 years from now and then discount it for 5 years. Or I can take the factor for 10 years less the factor for 5, and I got the factor for just the last 5 years.
Okay, so if you did it that way by that factor, then you have to take the present value of that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, so if you want, if you want to use the difference between them, okay, which is just fine. What's that factor? It's a lot less. 10.
It's 5 for 10 years. It's 5.65022.
And for 5 years was 3.60478, right? And you take the difference between the two,
which is 2.04544.
and that's just fine. Okay? Then multiply that times the 18,000, and what do you get?
36,880.
Okay? So your positive cash flows weren't nearly as nice, were they? Okay, so far. All right, so now we've got 68, and we could do the same thing. You could take the factor for 30 periods less the factor for 10, couldn't you? So what's the one for 30 periods?
8.05518.
What was the one for 10? We already know it, don't we? It's the 5.65022. What's the difference between those two? 2 something in it.
2.40496.
See, if you intuitively see this shortcut, it's kind of nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you don't, who cares? You could figure the present value 5 years from now, 15 years from now, so on. Okay, be all right. 68 times 2.40496, how much you get?
163,537.
Okay, and then what's the next one? Well, I guess it's going to be for 40 years, right? Less 30. What's the factor for 40 years?
8.24378.
Isn't it amazing how little you get for the last 10 years? But this is a high discount rate. It's 12%. And take away the factor then for 30 years, which was 8.05518. And what's the difference? Oh my, 0.1 what?
886.
18860. Yeah, you're right. Okay. 0.1880 times 38,000. Did we do that right? I guess so. How much is that?
7,167.
Yeah. The point being that 80,000 for the last 10 years isn't worth very much right now.
Yeah.
And they're years and years from now. Okay, all you do now is add up the present value of each one of the annuities, and you've got, now be sure and subtract the 140, right? How much would you pay for this vineyard? This really makes people upset. You know, wait a minute. Yeah, just when you read it, it looks, that's a lot of cash flow.
66,933.
Okay, that's probably the answer if we did all the math right. Now, figure out how many cash flows this is, though. How many dollars is it? What's 5 years times 39,000? That's that first one. This is mind-boggling. Okay, that's 195. Really gives you an idea of time value of money here. What's 18 times 5 years? That's the second one, right? How much is that?
90,000.
Okay, positive. What's 68,000 times 20 years? That's what it is, right? 11 to 30?
1,360,000.
Okay. What's 38,000 times 10 years? 380? And what is the total cash flow? It's negative 195 plus 90 plus 1,360 plus 380. Wow. It's big, isn't it?
It would be
1,635,000 in cash flows discounted at 12%. It's only 666,000. How much is the interest? The difference. 12% is a lot of interest, and you're waiting a lot of years. I don't know if we did it right or not. It seems mind-boggling, doesn't it? Okay. We're on problem 6.6. Let's see if we got it. Yeah, I always have to look. I can't get that number without calculating it. I don't know how you could. Maybe some people can estimate it in their head. 6.5. That's 6.7. 66,936. Is that what we have?
Yep.
Oh, we're brilliant people. Look at that. There it is. Okay, good. It's always nice when that happens. Yeah, 66,936. Okay. Now, what if I had changed interest rates on you? What would you do? You got to be careful to keep them separate, right? But, you know, seeing as these are, we grouped them into years, if I use 12% for the first one and 11 for the second one and 10 for the third one, so what?
So
Right?
would you
It's
just,
discounted.
like the way we subtract?
Well, you couldn't do the subtract anymore because you got two different interest rates, right? But what you could do, no, wait a minute. You could too subtract it for those periods, but be careful which one you pick up because the interest rate's different, right? You'd have to take the factor at the second year. You'd have to take the factor for 11 at 11% for 5 years and 11% for 10 years, and take the difference between those. Don't take the 12% factor away from it. Yeah, you got to use the same interest rate on both of them. So yeah, but you still could calculate it that way if you want. Or you could discount it at 11% down to the beginning, right, to the beginning of the second 5 years, right, to the end of year 5, beginning of year 6, and then you could discount it at 12% as a lump sum. That'd work just fine too. That makes sense? Yeah. Either way would work. Sure. That's good.
For the present future value, to get like the new factor, you just, for both of them, you just multiply it by 1 plus the interest rate.
Well, or divide.
Or divide?
Yeah, depending on, which direction you're going. If you're discounting, you're dividing. If you're compounding, you're multiplying, right? Yeah. It depends on which table you're on, too. Right, which direction you're going. Are you going from an annuity to an ordinary annuity? Right, it's the opposite, of course, for the two of them. The other thing you can do is you can just add one more year and subtract 1.0, right? If you're going from the ordinary annuity table, right? That'll give you an annuity due table. Or if you're on the annuity due table, you can subtract a year and add 1.0, right? Go down 1 year and add 1.0, and you got the other table. Being able to convert one of those tables into the other is really nice. I used to teach with a guy that would give people a present value of a sum table and make them calculate the other tables from it. Are you kidding me? You only give them one table. Well, you know what? How do you get from a present value of a sum table to a future value of a sum table? Take the reciprocal of every single one of them, right? Now that you've got both a present value table and a future value table, what do you do to build the annuity tables? Add up the present value table and you add up the present value of an annuity table, right? That'd be an ordinary annuity, right? An annuity due, you'd have to take one for the first year and then add them, right? And then it's the same idea doing the future values, right? Same deal. So you could develop any of those tables from one of the tables, couldn't you? He worked when there were, he taught when there were no computers and no calculators, and that was a useful skill then. But, because you might not always have the table you need, but now you don't need to do that, probably. Other than just for fun. Bend your brain a little. But I think it's useful to understand it, though, understand the ideas. So you got another one you want to do, or want me to make up something? Let's say I would like to have a future value. No, let's make it worse than that. Let's make it worse than that. Let's see. Let's say when I retire, it's going to be you retiring. How old are you?
19.
19. Okay, we'll say you're 20. Okay, so even numbers. Okay, so when you retire let's have you retire at 60, because you're young, so you probably think that's old. So yeah, okay. So at 60 years old, at age 60, you're going to retire. That's 40 years from now, okay? You would like to have an annuity payment for you, and we better make it at the beginning of each year, because you're retiring, you need to spend some money then, and you're going to invest until then, right? So beginning of each year, how much do you want to have? How about $200,000 a year? That'd be all right? It won't be enough then, but okay, that's fine. So 200,000, okay? And let's say you're going to live to 90 years old. Okay? And let's say that you are going to invest at the end of each year for years. We got 40 years to go, don't we? Now, 20 years old. Okay? Let's say you're going to invest at the end of each year in years 1 through 10 $8,000 per year. You'll never do that much. Let's not do that. Let's do $5,000 per year. Thinking after taxes now. Okay? And then after 10 years, you're starting to pull down some bucks. $10,000 per year. Okay? And none of this gets to go to your college funds for your kids. You have to earn more. Okay. So This is year 1 through 10. This is year, I'm sorry, 11 through 20. Then year 20 through 30. Let's do $15,000 per year. And now you are 50 years old. So year, why did I do 2 and 3 there? Come on, please. A little clearer. Okay. That's 20 to 30. 21 to 30, I guess. And then 31 to 40. At the end of each year, you will deposit only $12,000 per year. Because you're blowing more money and maybe your income start to go down a little, not working as much or something. Okay? Will that work? No. This is what I want you to solve. Got to have something to solve. How much per year? Okay? And then I'll make it worse. This interest rate. I'm really aggressive. I think I'm going to earn 8%. This one I'm starting to get better deals. 10%. So I'm in the market, right, at 8. Now I've got insider trading. No. Okay, and now for some reason you decide to get more conservative, and you earn 6%. Here, I stay conservative, get real conservative. I shouldn't do this. I wouldn't, but you can. Okay, 5%. Okay, then it gets worse. Year. What we'll do here is the interest rate is going to be 4%. Make it 3%. That's after inflation, right, or before inflation, rather. Interest rate's 3% for the time that you're retired, right? So that's for 40 years, or wait a minute, 30 years, right? Okay, could you calculate that? All I want to know is this. What would you do? What would you do? I think I've given you enough information to do it with. What can you calculate?
You got all the ordinary annuity payments for your years 1 through 30.
So could you calculate the value of those? Either present value or future value? Easily. You can't do the last one, right? The last 10 years until you know what the payment is. But if you knew either the future value or the present value of that one, you could calculate it, couldn't you? Okay. How about the beginning stuff? I think I might start there. I mean, you can calculate the other ones, but you need to know if you want present or future value. And by the way, it doesn't make any difference if you do present or future value. They're going to be the same either way. It just might be easier to calculate or easier to visualize. Where do you want to be? What do you want to know? You want all those investments to grow to what? The amount of money you need when you retire, right? I think I'd go to future with those. I think I would get the future of that first 10 years all the way out, right? I'd get the future of these next 10 years all the way out. And what do I mean by out? To the end of 40 years, I'm going to retire. So I know what the future value is of this annuity stream at the end of 40 years, this one, and this one I still won't know. But then what would I do? Can you calculate the present value 40 years from now of your retirement? Well, yeah, $200,000 a year for
30 years.
30 years. Oh, we didn't screw up the math too much here. I might have too much invested. We'll see. Okay, I don't know. Let's see how it works out. The way I wrote this problem, I'd have to work it before I get it to you guys. But let's see what that does. See what it does. And the interest rates are all over the map. Now, what are you going to have to do when you calculate these, though? you're gonna have to get a future value of the first 10 years at 8%, and then compound it at 10 for 10 years, and then compound it at 6 for 10 years, and then compound it at 5 for 10 years. Right? Okay, and then you'll know what that one's gonna do. So go ahead and do it. Do those first three groups, the first 10 years, second 10 years, third 10 years. You're not watching this thing. Don't watch this thing. Don't watch it. You'll be able to do it later. There you go. Thumbs up. Yeah. This all looks good. So if they do join the first report depreciation. Am I right? Always some they would have depreciated and through some of the years 2000. Yeah, 12. And you don't have to actually you want to look at for that $15,000. You got to have this appreciation expense. You bet, because you have to do that to get the balance and accumulate appreciation. But otherwise, you get your perfect debt. You understand? Yeah, well, no, I'm sorry, not 135, just 15. Remember, this is 15. Yes, if you sold it at the end of the year, you wouldn't need that income. But because you left it out there for the year, you need to before the depreciation, either they could sell it and retire it off. So after you use 15,000, you'd be close to it. After you do this, you have 135 in there, you're retired. Good job. Yeah, very good. You understand that? Yeah, you do this first, and you do that. This interest is correct, but you need that one first to get the accumulated depreciation up to 135. The last entry you're going to make is December 31st. So, got it? Good. Are you coming? This is how you do it. It's a future annuity at 8% for 10 years. Then what you need to do with this compound. Now you can invest that. This can be big. Now you're going to invest that at 10% for 10 years. And then what you get then, you're going to invest at 6% for 10 years. You keep growing, right? But it's growing at different interest rates. And then you're going to invest that 5% for 10 years. So that's what this annuity is going to grow to, right? Then the next one, it was the years 11 to 20, right? At 10. That's what this is, probably. Then you're going to grow that one at 6% for 10 years, and you're going to grow it at 5% for 10 years. With me? And now you know what that one's for. Then the last one, you'll be done. well, no, not on the, I'm sorry, the 21 to 30 years, that's what this is with now. You're gonna have to compound that at 5%, right? Okay. And then you'll know, when you add those three up, you'll know what these three are worth, right? Okay. Then, what you want to do is figure out what the present value of this is at the beginning of your retirement, right? Because what you've got is the future value of all these at the beginning of your retirement. Now, this present value less this future value, right, at the same date, will be the value of this annuity. Then what you do is you get the factor at 5% for 10 years and divide into that amount, and that's how much more you need to deposit each year. So you're going to be here for the other hour?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys in the back. Well, those are some other fights.
What is it?
But try working it. Try working it when we're together. Yeah. No, we'll work that one too together, okay? And you can remind me what we did. Okay. Although people might be trying to do this that are going to be here later too, and that'll be fun. I had to save this one, huh?